Alrighty, welcome everybody. New Joker 6 here, and today we're going to be starting a new series called Warframe for Beginners. In this episode, we are going to talk about modding and the importance of it, as well as how to know exactly how you're going to want to mod a weapon, as well as a few basic mods that are always going to be on a weapon, regardless of how you want to mod it. Now, to show you an example of how important modding is, let's go ahead, let's take a look at my Nikana. And let's just remove all the mods. This is a stance, and what a stance does is it doesn't touch any of the stats. But what it does is it unlocks melee combos that you can use for the weapon specified here. And this is just a little description of the stance. Blind Justice, reverse grip style, emphasizing slashing and impaling strikes. Personally is my favorite. But with the Nikana series, you also have the choice of decisive judgment, and tranquil cleave. So, let's go ahead and spawn ourselves a level. Well, let's go with a heavy gunner. Corrupted. Just one. Let's spawn him in at... Sure, let's go with the default level 20 to start us off. Simulate a little quicker, please. Thank you. Now, let's go on and remember, no mods. Now you might be looking at it and say, well, what's wrong? Obviously, it's doing pretty well. Yes. Against level 20s. Not a problem. You're going to find those fairly often if you're just going through the star map. Now, let's go ahead and change that to something a little more towards, let's call it endgame. These are known as sortie missions. And the highest level enemy you're going to face in there is a level 100. And do know, if you do stay in an infinite level, unlimited, let's go with unlimited level, such as a defense that just keeps going until you choose to quit or extract, or with a survival that keeps going. With that, every 5 waves are in a defense, every 5 minutes in a survival. They're going to keep getting stronger and stronger. So let's go up against a level 100, something that you're going to find once you stay long enough, or once you try and do a sortie mission. All of a sudden, that weapon, it's okay. Now, do keep in mind, this is a prime version of the Nikana. The difference between prime versions and the regular versions, the prime versions are usually much better. Do I have a normal Nikana still? No, I actually do not. That's a bit of a shame. But, for example, take a look at this. We can look at the normal Lex here. Now, that is with mods, the stats that you see there on the right. But now that we're in here, we're going to see everything without stats. So you take a look at that, and we'll take a look at the Prime. It's just about doubled in damage right off the bat. It's got higher status, higher crit chance, faster fire rate, and a larger magazine. So just right off the bat, you can tell that's going to be a lot stronger of a weapon compared to its normal variant. So, keeping that in mind, it did take a little bit with that. It did okay once the enemy hit the ground, but let's go ahead and put some mods on here. Honestly, I'm a little surprised that it actually did as well as it did against that level 100. Maybe you should have used a bombard, which is also something we face. Something with a lot more health. Well, I don't know a lot more, but a fairly decent more. And he's just gonna completely bleed out. How else can we? You know, it's also show the difference. Also show that stats might be a little deceiving for some people. Let's go over to the Prisma Cleavers here. Okay, let's go over to Config B. Now, some stances do offer increased damage by completing certain combos. But let's go again, say level 100. No mods, nothing on these. As you see, they're not doing too well. Not doing too well at all. Which is a bit of a shame, because these are some very nice weapons. And highly recommended if you do get a chance to get a hold of them. Now, let's go ahead and put some mods on. I am using Viral with this, which we'll talk about elemental combos here in a bit. So, let's jump in. Same thing, only difference is now we have mods on this weapon. And all of a sudden, we're doing much, much better. Of course, we got killed there in the end, and regardless, he still died from bleeding out. So, despite the fact that we did die, we would have taken out that huge threat on the field, which would have opened that up for our opponent, an ally, to bring us back to life. Now, something interesting to note. Now, speaking with melee mods in general, if you have something like a Loki or an Ashe, they are going to benefit from a melee multiplier from being in stealth, which is just going to make weapons like these even stronger. So you see, he still had a fair chunk of health left at the end, maybe around half, by the time my cursor actually came off of him. And he still got completely destroyed for the rest of that very quickly. So that's just something to keep in mind there. Now, as for learning how you want to mod things, that's all going to come down to the weapon, of course, and its base stats. Now, let's take something like the Soma Prime, for example. Oh, not you. There we go. Let's take all this off. Let's just look at the base stats here. Looking down, 30% crit chance, 3 times crit multiplier, 3-second reload. So that is quite a long time. Because imagine you just run out and you're gonna start reloading something like 1, 2, 3, and now you can start shooting it. That big gap it can hurt if you got a lot of enemies. Let's keep looking. Status 10%. Okay. And now you look at the numbers. 1.2 impact, 4.8 puncture, and 6.0 slash. Does not seem very... Does not seem very good, despite being a prime. However, that's okay. Because if we take a look at here, we'll have a crit multiplier of 3.0 times damage once you get a proc of crit, which is fantastic. Right off the bat, if you see something like that, go for the crit. Build for a crit. And we take a look up, crit chance 30%. So you got 30% crit chance to start you off, and a 3.0 times multiplier. That is fantastic. That is screaming for you to mod it for crit. So, right off the bat, without even thinking, you can grab your Serration mod. Point strike. And what is a vital sense? And just by doing that right off the bat, the numbers still not that impressive. Okay. Crit chance has gone up to 75%. That's every 3 in 4 shots is going to be a crit. Multiplier 6.6 times. That is more than doubled. That is going into fantastic. Fantastic. Now, if you do get a chance to get a hold of some mods such as... do I want to go with heavy caliber or... I think split chamber is the one I'm looking at. Throw that up. Gone significantly up. And that's just put on a couple mods. Just fine. Now, if we look over here, this is what I've been using on mine. What we're doing, we're significantly increasing the fire rate, which does help with status chance a bit. And you see I'm going 75% and 6.6. Now, though this does have a fair amount of status now, it is still mainly a crit-based weapon. And with this speed and this chance and status, we're bound to proc a status. Now, once you get your basic mods in there, such as a multi-shot, if you were to have it, if you're just starting out in Warframe, you're not going to have it, but you will come across mods like Serration, Point Strike, Stormbringer. You'll come across those fairly early on, especially things like Serration and Point Strike. Now, I'm actually interested in this myself. Wait. Excuse me? Did it take that off? No, it did not. Did it take it off? You don't even need that equipped because you don't even use that. Okay. So, let's take a... Ew. Why is that showing the normal... Normal, Soma. Yeah, I guess that's better. Okay, so let's go ahead and spawn one in. Now, keep in mind, I'm going to be invisible just to keep survivability, but that does not help the damage at all in this case. As you can see, even though the numbers weren't that great... Is he going to bleed out? Yes, he is. We still have 74 shots in the magazine, and that level 100 just got completely annihilated. Now... Of course, if we were to keep firing, a little more, we might be down to maybe about 20 by the time we took them out, just by constantly shooting and not stopping and waiting for that bleed proc. But still, considering that is a level 100, and that is pretty good. So, because unless you're going for like some kind of records, maybe sitting there and survive for a couple hours, that's... You're probably going to fight enemies that are level 100 and under. You probably never go over 100 unless you are really trying to stick out a survival or a defense for a pretty extended amount of time. Now, go ahead and we'll take everything... Well, we got some stuff on there now, but we'll take everything off. And let's take a look at how the Soma would... perform without mods. You see, we went through the full 200 and we've barely left a scratch on them. Modding is very important in this game, and knowing how to do it is even more important. It's a huge difference there. Even though the numbers don't appear that great, 114, 38, 30, that's what? 68 and 7.6, that's going to put that in, and that's 69 and 7, 76, 76 and 114. 190? 190 damage total. That is it. But it's because that we built for that crit. We built upon the weapon's strengths. And not going towards its weakness or just throwing random things onto it. So, again, let's take a look at... We can continue looking at primaries, just because let's take a look at the Tigris. Sancti Tigris, either one will work. We'll take a look at this. Go to config C, so we can take a look at... I'm going to have to go back and go back in, just so we can take a look at the default stats without looking at red. Okay, we're taking a look at crit chance, 10%. It's kind of okay, I guess, if you really had to put up with it. Crit multiplier, 2.0 times that part. Excellent, fantastic. But the crit chance just isn't there. Now, the status, 30%. That alone screams, build me for status. So, if we take a look here, we're building for pure damage. Now, note, that does get the status to 90%. With some pretty impressive numbers there. Which is going to come out to, I think, like 45,000, 47,000, somewhere in there. No. 50-something. 58,000, 59,000, something like that. I was off by 10,000 on the first guess. Anyway. It's going to come around 59,000, which is excellent. You're going to think, that is awesome. Why wouldn't that work? That is fantastic. Yes, it is. But once you get into it, now we're looking at status. Now we got impact, puncture, slash, blast, corrosive. We got all of these different things that can proc. But however, if we take a look at config B, my second list here, I've got the status up to 98.2%. But you do see all that red. So slash, puncture, impact, all of that is coming down. Of course, blast and corrosive go down to 0 because we're using completely different options. We're using radiation and viral, which is a great combination. Now, the reason why this will do much better is because of the viral comboed with the status. With that 98.2%, that 98.2%, we're going to get a almost guaranteed proc of something. Now, if she was shotgun, of course, you want to be close. Now, we did proc a little there, but it wasn't viral, unfortunately. Unfortunately, the luck is not on our side with this one. With this enemy in particular. We see we did get radiation, so if he did have other enemies here with him, he would be attacking him. We did get a bit of viral proc there. But a great way that we can show this off as well would be if I had changed my Ash to... Where is he? Vauban. Because Vauban will be able to just throw him up and just hold him there. That way we don't have to worry about turning invisible or getting chased or anything. Did I get him? I did. Okay, so if we can take a look. 1, 2. We got puncture, slash, and radiation total. 3. That's not slash and radiation. 4. There's the viral. Now, if we get that viral to proc, these heavy gunners aren't going to stand a single chance. No, they won't have any chance against a... something like a Tigris, Sancti Tigris, Tigris Prime. That's one of them. Let's see if we can get viral to proc sooner. Viral right out the gate. You see, as soon as viral stopped, his health went right back up. Now, the reason for that is because when viral procs, it actually cuts the health in half. The health gets cut directly in half, which is fantastic. Now, another great elemental that you could go with there is corrosive, and the reason for that is because corrosive will strip down the armor, but it'll strip it down permanently. That'll be a permanent strip down of the armor. So, this video is getting actually quite long, so let's quickly take a look at some basic mods that you're going to always throw on your primary, your secondary, and your melee, regardless of what the weapon is or how you're going to build it. And then next time we'll take a look at the elementals, as well as different combos you should keep in mind. What faction is weak against what elementals, because we do have the Grenier, the Corpus, the Infested, and the Corrupted. As well as mixing different elementals together to get things such as that viral that you see there, or that radiation, or the corrosive, that blast. Different things like that. So, take a look. I'm going to personally go to my Dread. Well, do I want to go to my Dread? No. Let's take a look at the Soma. For our example here. Taking a look at this, we've got Serration. That is guaranteed no matter what you're going to do. You're always going to put Serration on. Split Chamber is... I don't know if you're going to always put that on, but probably almost always going to put Split Chamber on. Multi-Shot is going to help out with that status chance. It's going to help out with your overall damage in general. So these two are probably your guarantee that you're going to put on. Now, Serration you're going to get early on. Split Chamber, probably not early on, but if you do have the plat and you're willing to put out that plat for it, either you earned it through trades or you purchased it, or you're going to use that initial 50 you started with. Split Chamber, good way to go. Now, if we're looking at secondaries, Hornet Strike, guaranteed. Again, you're going to get that very early on. Now, once you start ranking up, again, you could either purchase or ranking up. I guess we can go with ranking up. But regardless if you're going to purchase with Platinum or try and farm it yourself, Barrel Diffusion, always putting it on, as well with the Hornet Strike. And the Lethal Torrent. These are your three must-haves for any secondary weapon. No matter what you're going to put on, those three you're going to put on. And of course, this goes the same no matter what. If you're going to do the same. Crit chance, you're going to look at your status. If you're going to look at if they're both garbage, they both suck, you're going to build for pure damage. Just try and get as much damage as you can in these numbers here. In melee, we're going to take a look at, you're going to put on, you're not going to have prime pressure point at the beginning. So you're going to have to use a non-primed version pressure point, which you will get fairly early on, just like the Hornet Strike and the Serration. That is what you're always going to put on. That one specific mod. Then everything else is going to depend. If you want to go with some crits, then, well, I mean, some people will argue at putting something like Blood Rush on. That will help if you want to turn just about any melee weapon into a crit weapon, or if it has a lot of crit to really just boost that crit even further. If you really want to go with crit, go ahead and throw Blood Rush on, which you're not going to get early on again. So that's why I can't really say that it is a must have, well, not a must have, but like a guaranteed have to put on every melee. If you are just starting out, pressure point you must put on. And with that, we'll just take a quick look. If you're looking at, just to help you with learning how to mod, But if you take a look at stats, just go ahead and use an empty space here. Of course. And we're going to take a look at here. Crit chance. If it's 20%, if it's 15%, think about building for crit. If it's 20% or higher, definitely build it for crit. Now, if the crit multiplier, hopefully it's 2 or 2.5 for a base. You will get some things that do have a decent crit chance, like 20% or 15%, but only have a crit multiplier of 1.5, which does hurt a little bit, but again, I would still say build for crit, unless we go down here and we then take a look at status chance. That's, and this goes with the same rule. 15% status, okay. 20% or higher, definitely build for it. Now, in the case like this, where we have crit and status, with a decent crit chance, you could build the weapon either for crit or for status. Either way would work. Now, if we take a look at my build here, I increase the crit to 32% with a 3.8 times multiplier, but I also have Blood Rush, so that 32% is going to go up much higher real quick. But at the same time, I'm also getting a 40% status chance, so that's an almost guaranteed 1 in 2 hits, almost, of proccing something here. And since Slash is the highest, Slash is most likely the thing that's going to proc, which is excellent, because Slash is going to go right through armor, it doesn't matter. So, in short, primaries, guaranteed, in short, primaries, the mods that you always want to stick on, it's going to be things like Serration if you're just starting out. If you're further along and you have the mods, Serration, Split Chamber, every time. Secondaries, you're always going to put on Hornet Strike. If you have the mods, always stick on Hornet Strike, Barrel Diffusion, and Lethal Torrent. Melee, always start out by putting on your pressure point. If you have the primed version, put prime pressure point. Those are what you're going to start out with every time, no matter what kind of build you're with. You're going to go for crit, you're going to go for status, or pure damage. And that's always what you're going to start with. And with that, take care, have yourselves a good night. And for the next video when we come back, hopefully it won't be as long as this. Apologies for being so long. We're going to go over the different elementals, enemy weaknesses, and elemental combos. So take care, everybody. Have yourselves a good one.